like to welcome Troop 131 to the council meeting, working on your citizenship badge. We do have an Eagle Scout amongst us. Councilman Martin McConnell is an Eagle Scout himself. So,
Mr. Savoy, I'd just like to say I'm a parent of 2 Eagle Scouts. Thank you.
all right, Ms. Suzanne, let the record reflect Mr. Alvin Thomas is absent. He may be a little late. And there was a request by Mr. Thomas to move agenda item number 8 to the end of the agenda in the event that he could make it here. We're gonna go ahead and move number 8, and we're gonna put it as 18-8. Chair's addition, there is a 2/3 that I'm going to request. Today, Parish President Hughes called an emergency leadership council meeting to discuss the possibility of FEMA coming in and placing temporary housing in the parish. There's a resolution that's going to be presented to the council for your consideration.
Motion, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Tyler Lambert, second by Mr. McConnell to add a resolution to the agenda. Any questions? Any opposition? Having none, motion passes. We're going to put that as resolution. We're going to put that as 9-8. All right, one more thing. Ms. Angel Desatel with the library board has just put a handout in front of you as far as FEMA applications. FEMA representatives will be at the Ascension Parish Library in Gonzales on September the 19th from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. That's for your information. Maybe you might want to try to distribute that amongst your community, and maybe at the stores or whatever, try to get the word out the best we can. All right, anyone wishing to comment on any agenda item, please sign in with the secretary, Ms. Suzanne Patterson. Number 5, presentations. There is I have a presentation. Ms. Cheryl Fontenot just stumbled over something very good and some very good news for us, so I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Fontenot.
Hi, thank you. As you all know, Ascension Parish has taken over the Winn-Dixie and made it a distribution center. Well, besides working over there and seeing all the volunteers, the last few days I've been back to council business, but on the way to the meeting tonight, I decided to stop to see how they were doing. And I stumbled upon something that is really hot off the press. A group of people came from Gonzales, Texas, and they've got this flyer that they put out in Gonzales, Texas, Gonzalians Helping Gonzalians. They said Gonzales, Louisiana is located between New Orleans and Baton Rouge, which is one of the regions hardest hit by Katrina. We have been in contact with officials there, and they are in need of everything. We have included on the back a list of some specific items they are having trouble getting. Johnson Oil Company and Tiger Tote Food Stores Incorporated is putting together a drive for items to take to these victims next week. We will be advertising on the radio, in the local newspaper, and through various signs. From September the 9th through September the 14th, all car wash proceeds and gasoline profits from Tiger Tote number 8 will be donated to the needs of Gonzales, Louisiana. This city is also home to one of the largest animal rescue shelters, as many animals have been displaced by the storm or left behind. They are in need of animal supplies. Donations will be accepted in the Johnson Oil parking lot through September the 14th. Look for the Johnson Oil Company truck parked in the front of the office. Remember, car wash purchases are valid for 30 days, so stock up now to help these folks and wash your car for up to 30 days later. Please take a moment and lend a helping hand to our sister city. I was privileged to meet these people. They drove in this afternoon with an 18-wheeler full of goods and handed over to Kenny Matassa a check for $10,200+. And I just thought that they needed to be commended. And I asked my friend Chuck Bush to send them a tape of this so that they can know that the people in Ascension Parish do indeed appreciate they're doing this. They not only drove down and just did this at 5 o'clock now. This is between 5 and 6 o'clock. They were already getting in their vehicles to head back to Texas. So they drove down only for that reason. So.
Thank you, Mr. Flano.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. McConnell.
is it in order to send an official letter of thanks from the parish signed by the administration and every member of this
Yes, it is,
council?
Mr. McConnell.
Then I will offer that in the form of a motion.
Second.
Motion by Mr. McConnell, second by Mr. Fontenot. No objection, I'm sure. Thank you, Mr. McConnell.
Mr. Savoy.
Mr. Thompson.
Yes, and I also would like to commend Mr. Kenny Matassa on the hard work and the good job he's doing in managing that site.
No will taken. All right, Mr. President, you have a presentation?
Just for your information, and we'll do this officially since they're not here, but to proclaim Alcohol and Drug Addiction Recovery Month in Ascension Parish, and we encourage all of our citizens to join their voices for recovery, healing lives, families, and communities by supporting men, women, and youth who are in drug and alcohol addiction treatment and recovering their families. So obviously our mental health and substance abuse program is involved in this. I don't think any of them are here tonight. So that's for the month of September. Also, this is new to me. I'm excited to hear about it. I think it would make a world of difference in the lives of our families. To proclaim Family Day, a day to eat dinner with your children in Ascension Parish. And this is the National Center on Addiction and Substance Abuse at Columbia University. And through their studies, they've found that, I know something that my faith encourages daily and weekly family meetings and family home meetings. They've found that in their studies that families that spend time at the table together seem to do better as a family. And so I'm glad to see this is coming to our parish. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
We have nothing on the consent agenda. Number 7, Parish President report. Mr. President.
Our first report tonight will be by the Planning Department, our Director, Mr. Tom Fansett.
Thank you, Mr. President, Chairman Savoy, councilmen and women. The Planning and Development Department has been extraordinarily busy since Labor Day. The first week after returning to work, we collected $33,000 in permitting fees. Typically, we collect about $60,000 a month. Contractors applying for permits are saying that these are prepaid house contracts. In other words, people are coming here building homes on empty lots. We are seeing twice as many visitors, twice as many phone calls. Much of the increase is in people asking what they can do in certain instances. The indication is that they're from outside the parish, but they're wanting to stay. Their children are in school. Most of them are from the areas east of Orleans Parish, St. Bernard Parish, Chalmette, Plaquemines Parish. Many of these people will not return for 6 months to a year. On the issue of the temporary mobile home, manufacturing home on house lots in the wake of Hurricane Katrina, at the beginning of the week we had 20 requests, a lot of interest. With the policy that we put into effect under the emergency order, through this morning there has been just 2 permits approved. Both of those permits were for single trailers on a lot. We have had several requests, to get a new subdivision on the October agenda. That deadline has passed. We expect the October 5th is the deadline for the cutoff on the November agenda for subdivisions. We expect to see a large increase. Finally, we issued over 60 occupancies. These are people wanting to have the power turned on, either in the case of a home that was vacant and they've purchased and moved in, or a trailer or so forth. Typically, we issue 15 to 20, 3 times the normal. Interestingly enough, only 10 were for trailers on an empty lot, and the rumors that the number of trailers moving in is so forth and so on. It is our intent to monitor this closely. We have had compliments from people calling in, checking on the rumors that this has happened and that has happened, and I'm sure many of you have heard some of them. The compliments come from people who say, I moved to Ascension Parish because this parish has had the ability to put first-class subdivisions forth, and I'm glad to be here, and I'm glad to know that this is not a trailer park, and I'm glad to hear that this rumor is not true. And to your credit, we will be handing you some new ordinances in the next 3 months to make our subdivision regulations even better. Thank you. Any questions?
Any questions for Mr. Fancy? Mr. Dempsey,
Chairman.
Mr. Dempsey Lambert.
Yeah, Mr. Fanson, I'd like to thank you, inspectors. I see that they've just about tripled in their inspections, so we appreciate the safe job that they're doing.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Our next report will be from Mr. Charles Guidry. Is Charles here? On the estimated population increases in our parish with the evacuees who are now here temporarily, and all they should have a copy of that in your packets from Suzanne.
Good evening. On the extra people in Ascension Parish due to Hurricane Katrina, I used 2 formulas. One of them was getting in touch with agencies throughout the parish and including the state. And as you see, number 1 came up with approximately 15,650 extra people. And of course, I got in touch with the school board, and they had a formula that they were using of the total amount of students enrolled. And using the 13% formula, they came up with a total of 17,916 people. Or using a 14% formula, and they said it was somewhere right in between both of them, it's 16,636. Now, that did include all the firemen, law enforcement, and energy workers and the FEMA workers that were in the parish. So total, it's pushing 18 to 20,000 people. Any questions on that?
Yeah, Mr. Charles, total student enrollments, that's 2329 is the registered?
Right, and that includes parochial and private schools like St. Teresa, and the parish has 2012. I didn't break it down, but and
That's, excuse me,
Mr. Hillensbeck.
that's new enrollees since the storm.
that's correct. New enrollees since the storm.
They already had, I think, an additional, I believe it was 1,400 new students is what they wound up with.
Well,
One figure.
900.
900. Donald Sanjay told me between 900 and 1,000 before that. So
Maybe it was an estimate.
right.
Anybody got any questions for Mr. Charles? Thank you, Charles.
Okay, on the next page, if you want to turn over, just to bring you an update on how we're doing on the Operation Good Neighbor Relief account. It does not include the $10,000 that Ms. Fontenot had. We've had deposits of $34,650. Disbursements was $6,300. We still have $28,350 left that needs to be dispersed. Any questions?
Mr. McConnell.
a lot of people have made contributions to this account. I mean, lots of them have. So I don't really, I'm not certainly prepared to single any of them out, except I have to mention one person. One of our citizens, Mr. Toby Wagestack, organized on his own a golf tournament. They raised $10,000. And so almost a third of the money in that account was raised by one citizen at a golf tournament through participation. So I think that's outstanding. A wonderful job.
Thank you, Mr. McCall.
Thank you.
Thank you, Charles.
Remind all of us that our president is speaking tonight at 8 p.m. and he's supposed to be addressing these concerns pertaining to temporary housing and so forth. So if we're not finished, I'll be leaving in order to see that. We have a TV set up in the building. I just want to really commend everyone with Operation Good Neighbor. And also one of our local chemical plants I know of personally donated $250,000 to the Baton Rouge Area Foundation. That's also available to us, and we've used some of that. People that we gave the gasoline gift cards to, we used up 100 already. And the church is involved in that. We'll pay for that through this. And they tell me many of these people were able to get to their families in other states and other areas. And we still have a need. They called me today saying to put more money into that to help people who have transportation but who lack the financial means for gasoline or need a tire repair or a part on a vehicle fixed. So they're still working there through HUB, Helping Unite Believers, where all the churches are coming together to work on that. David Matassa, who's over our mosquito control, is working with the United States Air Force. We're a low priority compared to the other parishes that has so much water over them for days and weeks at a time, but we are in the list for aerial mosquito spray, and hopefully that will happen. The Fluor Corporation, who is the prime contractor for FEMA in Louisiana, is in our parish looking for temporary housing. This resolution will address that, but additionally, they're in need of about 50 housing units right now to house their engineers and professional staff members who will be working out of the old Walmart building. They're having to stay in Lafayette now, and they're putting in very long hours, many hours a day, and having to drive back and forth, which is very dangerous. And so we're trying to, I'll be getting with you on something that just happened a few minutes ago to talk about maybe possibly doing something on some vacant property so that these people have a place to stay. They'll be in our parish for quite a while now, coordinating the restoration and rebuilding of many areas of the state. And obviously this would just be those workers, not their families, so it'd be minimal impact on traffic, none on our schools, shouldn't be any on law enforcement. We had a lot of calls. Somebody put out a flyer with my name and phone number on it about rezoning out at Lakes of Ascension. I just want the council to know and the citizens to know, and I've tried to answer all of them personally, that we did not do any rezoning, and in no way did it impact Lakes of Ascension. The property on Highway 621 was actually subdivided in the 1950s, and the same gentleman who owns that property is also the gentleman who developed the subdivision Lakes of Ascension. And if you'll get with the planning department if you have questions, you'll see that our residential zoning code, the subdivision deemed restrictions restricted, provides for single-family housing in these areas. Single-family housing is defined as a mobile home or a house. And so I can tell from some emails I've gotten from other people that came from some of you that some of you misunderstood this, and it's important that we help our citizens understand. So legally, when zoning was adopted in 1998, based on a subdivision plat and division of property going back in the 1950s, this land along Highway 621 can have a mobile home put on it or can have a house. If you owned it or I own it, we could do that. And so even though we may not like it, is the ordinances that's been in effect since zoning was first passed in 98. And we're working to try to slow that process down, but as I met with the attorneys and the planning people today, there's only so much we can do. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. President. Number 8, we move number 8 to 18A. Number 9, federal resolution providing for canvassing the returns and declaring the result of a special election held in Road Lighting District number 8 of the Parish of Ascension on Saturday, July 16, 2005, for the purpose of authorizing the levy and collection of a special ad valorem tax of 2.00 mills on all property subject to taxation within the boundaries of the Road Lighting District Number 8 of the Parish of Ascension for a period of 10 years to provide funds for road lighting purposes within the Road Lighting District Number 8 of the Parish of Ascension, and to pay the operation and maintenance costs and expenses in connection therewith, and providing for other matters in connection therewith. Mr. LeBlanc.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As we all know, with Mr. Hillenbeck's eloquent talk, this thing came to a conclusion that was not successful, and we just have to make the returns to the Secretary of State that the election did not pass, and that's all basically this is.
I move the resolution, Mr. Chairman.
Moved by Mr. McConnell, second by Mr. Todd Lambert. Is there any question? Is there any opposition? Having none, motion passed.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. We'll take up 9A, which is the resolution that came out of our Leadership Council meeting today. I will read it in detail, then I'll give you a minute to study it, and then we'll ask what the wishes of the council. Whereas in the wake of the devastation caused by Hurricane Katrina to our neighboring parishes, Ascension Parish has been at the forefront in providing aid and comfort to our brothers and sisters ravaged by the storm. Whereas Ascension Parish has welcomed up to 1,800 evacuees at the Lamar Dixon Center, the Dream Center in Donaldsonville has housed up to 300 evacuees from the affected areas, and our faith-based organizations and residents have housed and continue to house those without shelter from the devastated areas. Whereas Ascension Parish also housed members of the Louisiana Sheriff's Association, energy employees, and agents from the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Whereas Ascension Parish is providing the St. Bernard Parish Administration and Finance Departments with office space. Whereas a warehouse distribution center for evacuees is operating in Ascension Parish. Whereas Ascension Parish Fire Departments and Sheriff Departments have assisted their fellow firemen and policemen in the devastated parishes. Whereas Ascension Chamber and Volunteer Ascension have raised over $30,000. Whereas additionally, the Ascension Parish School System has admitted to date 2,099, which has just been updated by Mr. Charles, since Hurricane Katrina has struck the Louisiana coast. Whereas this information from the school system and that from various agencies, including the fire department, social services, local churches, and shelters, have led the parish administration to estimate that approximately 15,000 new people are either being sheltered by individuals and or churches or government in Ascension Parish. Whereas the welcome addition of these new residents in our parish has created a strain on our infrastructure, including but not limited to roads and traffic, sewage, drainage, law enforcement, and the school system. Be it resolved that due to the already existing strain on the infrastructure and in consideration with the welfare of our citizens, the Ascension Parish Council and the elected officials of Ascension Parish resolved that Ascension Parish not serve as a location for temporary housing facilities for residents caused by the evacuated by Hurricane Katrina. So, take a minute to think about this, gentlemen. We wish we could have given you more time for this, but it is a time restraint because FEMA is working diligently to try to find locations, and we need to give them an answer on how we feel about it. It was a lengthy discussion, good, strong discussion at the meeting today pertaining to this, and that's what this resolution is what came out of the meeting. So is there any questions on the resolution?
Yeah.
Mr. Hillingsbeck.
I guess the first question I got is who is it, Jared, is supposed to receive this resolution?
FEMA.
This is going to FEMA.
Yeah, this is a message to FEMA.
And did they ask for this?
No, they did not ask for it. They just wanted to know our position.
All right, next question I have is, resolution is not binding in any way, correct?
That is correct. All that is stating what the council, parish council's wishes are. That is correct.
I make a motion to accept the resolution.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Fontenot, second by Mr. Tyler Lambert, to accept the resolution. Is there any discussion? Any opposition?
I abstain.
One abstain, Mr. Hill is back. Resolution passed. Thank you. Number 10, zoning review ID 1336.05. Property located on the east side of Highway 44, approximately 200 feet south of Lee Drive, to amend the Ascension Parish zoning map from medium-intensity residential to crossroads commercial. Lot 6A of the Charles Courtney property for Golrod Properties LLC. Mr. Lance Brock.
This recommendation was to accept the rezoning request on this property.
I move to accept the recommendation of the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Second.
Motion by Mr. McConnell, second by Mr. Dempsey Lambert. Any question? Any opposition? Having none, motion passes. Number 11, zoning review ID 1337-05. Property located on the west side of Airline Highway, approximately 300 feet south of Louisiana Highway 42, to amend the Ascension Parish zoning map from medium-intensity residential to mixed use. Portion of the Track B of the Robert Odom tract for R.P. Odom heirs. Mr. Brock.
This recommendation was to accept the rezoning request.
Move to adopt.
Got a motion by Mr. Thompson, second by Ms. Fontenot, to accept the recommendations. Any question? Any opposition? Having none, motion passes. Number 12, zoning review ID 133805. Property located east of Sugar Lane Drive, approximately 600 feet south of Louisiana Highway 308 in section 96, Township 11 South, Range 14R, to amend the Ascension Parish zoning map from medium-intensity residential to mixed use. Lots 10, Charles Profito for Timothy Deal. Mr. Brock.
This recommendation was to deny this request based on a spot zoning.
I move to accept the recommendation of the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Motion by Mr. McConnell, second by Mr. Tyler Lambert to accept the recommendation from planning. Any questions on this matter? Any opposition? Having none, motion passes. Thank you, Lance. All right, we move to the committee reports. Finance Committee, Mr. McConnell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have item number A. This was an intergovernmental agreement between the Parish of Ascension and Fire Protection District Number 3 for the purpose of the Parish of Ascension performing certain administrative functions for Fire District Number 3, and also to authorize Parish President Ronnie Hughes to execute these agreements on behalf of the Parish of Ascension.
Motion, Mr. Chairman. Second.
Motion by Mr. Byrigger, second by Mr. Todd Lambert. Any questions? Any opposition? Having none, motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item 13B is an amendment to a cooperative endeavor agreement authorized by the Parish Council on December 16, 2004 with Fire District Number 3 and the Prairieville Volunteer Fire Department to provide for the employment of part-time firefighters and matters related thereto, authorizing Parish President Ronnie Hughes to execute these agreements on behalf of the parish. And it was also the recommendation that this be accepted as well.
Motion, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Byrigger, second by Ms. Fontenot. Any questions? Any opposition? Having none, motion passes.
Item number C is a cooperative agreement between the Parish of Ascension and the Louisiana Cooperative Units, and it's really to provide educational housing of educational classes here in the parish, and it's a renewal of an agreement.
Motion. Second.
Motion by Mr. Thompson, second by Ms. Fontenot. Is there any question? Any opposition? Having none, motion passes.
And finally, item number D was a renewal, and it was the committee recommends approving the South Central District Livestock Show to be held in Ascension Parish, January 2006.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Dempsey Lambert, second by Mr. Byron. Is there any question? Any opposition?
I got a question. I guess that's
Mr.
Lamar Dixon,
Hillensback.
right? Is that Lamar Dixon?
Yes, sir, it is. At
Go ahead.
Lamar Dixon.
Thank
Hopefully.
you. Yeah.
Is there any opposition? Having none, motion passes.
That was our committee, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McConnell. 14, strategic planning. Mr. Shakespeare.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We didn't have a meeting yet this month since it was canceled by the storm. However, our next meeting is the fourth Monday. This Monday at 5 p.m., Strategic Planning wants to have a working meeting in order to address the PUD ordinance that we were trying to do before the hurricane. And the TV committee will meet at that time to go over the proposals that we have to put forth a recommendation for parish television.
All right.
So it'd be 5 o'clock at the parish president's office.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Shakespeare. Personnel committee, Mr. Valentine.
Mr. Chairman, I don't have a report. I would like to notify Ms. Suzanne if she would get in contact with Mr. Dwight Poirier probably. I think one of the economic development members that was appointed by the council, Mr. Aubrey, is taking a job in Houston, and he'll be leaving. I don't think he's tendered his resignation yet, but that'll be something we'll need to advertise and do some interviews on. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Valentine. 16, Recreation Committee. Is anyone?
We didn't meet yet, Jerry.
You did not have a meeting. All right, thank you, Mr. Lambert. Number 17, Transportation Committee. Ms. Fontenot.
The Transportation Committee met this past Tuesday, 7:00 p.m. in this building. We were given some updates on Parker Road, also on the 2004 and 2005 road projects. We did make a few motions to come to this council. They will be at the next council meeting on that agenda, and we'll address them at that time. I remind you once again that the Transportation Committee meets the second Tuesday of the month as a norm at 7 p.m. in this building right here, following the Utility Committee. You're all welcome to attend. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Fontenot. Number 18, the Utilities Committee. Mr. Thompson.
Yes, sir. We had a Utilities Committee meeting. I don't really have anything to report other than Mr. Roberto. He presented to us the paperwork and the necessary stuff to get moving on getting the LCDBG grant for the Lemonville area. But we asked him to bring that back to the next meeting because we needed to discuss among the councils a little bit. And also, we had a meeting with Ascension Water to discuss a water franchise agreement, and that's moving right along. So we should have something within the next month or so. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Before we get to 18A, I'd like to recognize State Representative Mr. Roy Crozier. Mr. Roy, thank you for being here. Figured better late than never.
Thank you very much.
Number,
Mr. Chairman, Judge Lambert is also in there.
Judge Lambert.
and Miss Judge Lambert, I'm sorry.
Honorable.
You'll not get a speeding ticket in this parish.
Definitely our prettiest judge.
Family court.
Family court.
We're going to take up item 18A, which is number 8, which is the Ascension Parish Courthouse, Donaldsonville. Mr. Alvin Thomas has had that on there, and Mr. Kent Shakes now will take it up, is my understanding.
Yes, sir, I will. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Shakes now, hang on, I have a public speaker, Ms. Marilyn Lambert.
Good evening. Thank you for letting me speak here tonight. I know that y'all are tired of judges coming in here, and we're always asking for something. But you can't say that I've been in here too many times, because I really haven't. But for various reasons, the other judges were not able to come tonight, short notice, and just scheduling problems. So I'm here, and I am speaking on behalf of the 5 district judges and myself when I come here. I'm not quite sure where the council stands at this moment on the projected renovations to the upstairs at the courthouse in Donaldsonville. So I don't know exactly where y'all are coming from as I'm speaking to you, but I'm just going to tell you from the my position personally, and also I'll say some stuff on behalf of the district judges, but I can say from an Ascension Parish Court point of view, I hold court in Donaldsonville. I have an arraignment date on the first week of the month that is very crowded, and then I have a whole week out of my schedule every month that I have court in Donaldsonville, and I refer to that as my Donaldsonville week. And this week, I just concluded this afternoon my Donaldsonville week, where I go to Donaldsonville every day of this second week. I do not go on Friday, so that's why it's concluded on Thursday. But there are, I don't know, I don't ever see y'all in the courtroom, which is a good thing. Normally, if you're in the courtroom, it's usually not a positive experience. But in any event, you'd almost have to be there to know what I'm talking about. It's very, very crowded. There are 2 courtrooms there that are small, inadequate. Usually, I mean, you can only sit in one courtroom. You can't knock down the wall temporarily and use both courtrooms. But I sit in, of course, one of the courtrooms, which we perceive to be the biggest. I hadn't quite decided which one is the biggest. But the one that has the so-called jury room on the side is what we call that room. I usually sit on that side. And usually the people cannot fit in the courtroom. We have to have a relay system to call the docket so people can answer, because usually they're going down the stairs because they can't fit inside the courtroom. And usually we call out a name and then it's relayed down the stairs by deputies or just by the citizens who are there. And I know that everything revolves around money. I know that it takes money to do everything, and that's just a fact of life. And I understand it's going to cost money to try to renovate that courthouse. Right now, it is not adequate. I wish I could knock down the center wall myself. I wish it had never been built. That was built before my day. So I never saw the original big courtroom that was there before. I never had the privilege of seeing that. I don't know if that was before I was in law school or what, but I never had a reason to go over there, and I never saw it. From what I understand, it was similar to the one in Napoleonville, a big courtroom. I don't know if it was quite that big, but it was functional. And then at some point we had 2, I guess, to accommodate more court. But now we're back to a larger courtroom would accommodate more people. And I know there's some thought that the judges are not using the courtrooms in Donaldsonville. That may be true right now. We were told last October of 2004 that construction would be beginning on the courthouse. So we all rescheduled court. I scheduled it for City Hall in Donaldsonville, thinking that the courthouse would not be usable. And the district judges moved a lot of their court dates to Gonzales that were formerly scheduled in Donaldsonville, thinking that they would not have access to the courthouse. Well, that has not happened. There has been no construction. I quickly saw after a month of holding court at the City Hall that I could go back to the courthouse. So we just put up a sign on anybody that had been notified to come to court at City Hall to walk across the street to go to the main courthouse. And that, which leads me to another point. There is no way that I cannot not have court in Donaldsonville. In order to serve the citizens of Donaldsonville, I have to have court there. And I want to have court there, and I feel like I have not only a legal duty but a moral duty to have court there. I can't move all my court to Gonzales. Most of the people that come to court in Donaldsonville walk to court, and literally walk to court. When I'm pulling up in my parking space, people are coming from all directions walking to the courthouse. And that's just a fact of life in Donaldsonville, that's how they get there. So there's no way I can deny access to the courts to these people by moving it. So I have to have it there, and I have no plans to move it. And I also feel like that if there was an adequate large courtroom where we had room for a jury and a jury room that was adequate, right now if a jury's sitting in that room, nobody can use the bathroom. You can't use the phone. There's no place for the judge to sit. It just goes on and on with the complications. And the district judges, I strongly feel, and they have told me, that they would want to have court in Donaldsonville. It would relieve some of the pressure in Gonzales by going back to Donaldsonville and scheduling jury trials, large felony motion days, large felony jury trials. We've had some high-profile jury trials where the Gonzales courthouse has had hundreds of people there for jury duty. That could be done in Donaldsonville if the courtroom was adequate. Right now, neither courtroom is large enough to handle that. So I would like to ask, before you make a decision on what you want to do with that and how you want to spend that money, that you at least consider the obligation of the parish council and of the parish to provide adequate courtroom facilities, not for me, not because I'm a judge, but for the citizens of the parish that are coming. And if you've gone up there and looked at it lately, I don't know if you have or you have not, it's very raggedy, decrepit. The carpet is stained. It's not a janitorial thing. It's not something that the custodial staff can cure. It's just the facilities themselves. It would take some construction. The plaster, of course, is falling off the walls. Something has got to be done to repair it. I would like to see the plans that I previously saw some plans that Henry Chauvin had drawn up way back last year, and as usual, Henry did a very fine job. I've never seen any type of plan that Henry did that I didn't like, and I will include this one that I thought it was very adequate and would serve our needs. And the next issue I wanted to address was, I know that the elevator is a big issue. It's a lot of money, and I know that, and I don't think that an elevator is going to be cheap. But there are instances, many instances, over and over and over again, where I have people that cannot come up those stairs to come to court. And it's a huge problem because there is no courtroom downstairs. Just this morning, I had two child protection workers that, for physical reasons, they cannot come up the stairs. And so I had cases that involved these workers, and they're standing downstairs in the hall and not able to give their report to the court on these children that are in state's custody because they cannot come up the stairs. And it is easy to say that an elevator may not be needed. It is needed. And frankly, we don't know when any of us may end up in a wheelchair. I don't know if I may end up in a wheelchair tomorrow. I hope that will never happen, but it might. Or any of us sitting here, or a family member. And I think that we have an obligation to provide these people with access to the courts. And they have a constitutional right to have access to the courts. And I think by not having an elevator, it cuts off a lot of people. I've had to go downstairs in the hall and hold court, which is very awkward, with people coming in and out of offices and me standing in there in my robe looking like an idiot, I suppose, holding court. But I have to do that for these people. And I'm sure they are embarrassed, and they feel awkward because they can't come to the regular courtroom. So I would just like to ask that you consider all of that when you take up this issue. And on another personal note, while I have the floor, I would like to say something positive also. About 3 weeks ago, I called the Department of Public Works to ask that my ditches in front of my house be dug out because we were having some drainage problems. And if you know where I live, about 3 lots from Old Perkins Road in Prairieville, immediately after the storm, immediately after they were able to come, they came out and dug my ditch. I would have thought they'd done it with a teaspoon. It was so neat. There's not a clod of dirt anywhere, and I can't wait for it to rain for me to see how it does. But I was very impressed, and I want to commend the Department of Public Works for digging my ditch out. I was very pleased with the work. So,
Was that on a state highway?
Thought I'd say that while I was on the floor. But back to the courthouse issue, I would, all jokes aside about ditch digging, I would like to just ask and make an impassioned plea for you to consider the citizens of Donaldsonville. A lot's is not in Donaldsonville that used to be in Donaldsonville. But these people cannot come to Gonzales. They have no way to get there. And I think they deserve adequate facilities and adequate courtroom space. And I think that anyone that is handicapped deserves a right to come in the courtroom and have access to the courts, as do any of our other citizens.
I think you exceeded the 3 minutes.
Think what? Exceeded 3 minutes? You can hold me in contempt.
Hold you in contempt, man.
Actually, I think the chairman is a quick learner.
You're right.
Well, your time is on.
I was going to say, Mr. Shakespeare.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For a number of years, the courthouse in Donaldsonville has been tossed around, and I think like a bouncing ball. Years ago, in order to meet the needs of the parish, and as I say, no one around that area that saw the beautiful courthouse wished to take it and chop it up. But in order to acquiesce to the growing needs of the parish and get another courthouse, the people around the area acquiesced to everyone else and said, let's divide it up, and because we need extra courthouses, and do the right thing for the parish, and they did. Since that time, they built new courthouses in Gonzales as an annex because most of the population is coming toward this area. After a period of time, that was not adequate. And some money was raised, approximately a little over $6 million, was raised for a new courthouse system in the Gonzales area, at which time they would have adequate courthouses over here to hold court, and therefore the people that in the area wish to return the courthouse in Donaldsonville to its proper and former elegance, and having a big courtroom, and for all the reasons Judge Lambert said so eloquently before, money was appropriated and work was scheduled to begin. At that time, they asked that they postpone the work so that they could complete the courthouses in Gonzales so they could adequately have court there. It's been 5 years now, and the courthouses have, I guess, been substantially complete. And so, therefore, I think the waiting of the people in that area, the needs are justified. It's time to move forward and complete this historic courthouse. Adding to the obvious information and needs Ms. Lambert was talking about, right now the building is currently condemned by the fire marshal. We have an extension on it to keep it open. But the fire issues are sincere, and that's a health hazard. The safety of the people are involved for the reasons you talked about people waiting outside all the way down the stairs. The security for the judges, there is none. And people can just walk out up to the judges' chambers and offices and everything. And in this day and time, I don't think that's allowable. We don't have any separation from parish prisoners, which would be provided for not only in the elevator that they have, it's provided as a holding room so that we could separate the people that are currently in prison and on trial in an area from the general population. We have issues of the handicap, and the elevator would serve the needs of all the handicapped people. And when we're talking about handicapped people, we're also including people that are elderly that would like to attend court, and people that are not able to otherwise. It also serves, we also have it designed, and they've been meeting. I'd like to thank Mr. Henry Chauvin, Judge Meir, and probably most of all, Ms. Barbara Russo. It probably should be named the Barbara Russo Wing if we ever get it finished, because she's dedicated a life to trying to get this thing on board. But we have it designed so that within 15 minutes you can move some tables around and we can hold our council meetings there in a place that will be the preeminent historical building and building room in Ascension Parish, where when people walk in, they're going to be impressed by what Ascension Parish has to offer. And I think that's very important, the outlook that we give. It also is a historical building, and probably the most historical building in this parish when you get right down to think about it. And I want to think about what those people thought about in the 1800s when they designed and built this courthouse. Must have been a tremendous sacrifice that these people got together to spend that much money on such a beautiful and well-designed building, and how much they thought about our legal system in order to do that, and the pride in Ascension Parish. And for us to not bring this back to its original elegance as soon as possible, I think is unjustified. One thing that wasn't mentioned, and I did mention it before, is all historic buildings that I've learned after watching Texcoco and Laura Plantation and a number of others go, is that I thought we sure sprinkle the system in any historic building that we should have it sprinkled. However, due to lack of commitment to any other monies, and it was pretty well told that we wanted to try to stay within the budget that was put forth by the council, Mr. Chauvin had decided that the $90,000 it would take to accurately sprinkle the building to prevent it from being burned down would cost too much and would put us over budget. I would plead with the council that if that be the case, that would be $90,000 well spent, that we could keep that, and I'm sure that building would be there long after the courthouse annex on the East Bank is being torn down. I think with all of those reasons and everything, we have currently $550,297.82 in the in the budget for the courthouse renovations. The estimates come in around $500, a little bit more $1,000 for the interior renovations of the courthouse, and approximately $200,000 to $250,000 for phase 2, would be the elevator and the holding area. And upon seeing the need for the elevator and the holding area, we have had early on $200,000 that was put in funding for the capital outlay as a grant, and it was done, appropriation bill done as an emergency based on the security threat to the public, the judges, and that the current courthouse does. It has to be done on its own. The parish can put up monies to complete the project. I think we ought to pursue that grant to complete both phases of it, and because of the necessary need that we have, I think regardless of whether the grant comes through, we ought to pursue phase 1 and phase 2, get it completed, and try to get our monies back on the capital outlay, at which time the parish would not be spending any extra monies. And I put that forward as that we move forward as soon as possible, and I put that forward as a motion.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Shakespeare, second by Mr. Byregger, to move forward with the courthouse west renovations. Is there any question?
Are you talking about phase 1?
Mr.
Phase
President?
1 and phase 2.
And you understand phase 2 grants has been taken out of the capital outlay?
Yes, and I think we should pursue that again, and
Yeah,
if we
grants
cannot get,
coordinated.
and if we cannot get those monies, I think we should find the money within our budget, as we've done in our other projects. We've found approaching $1 million now for the courthouse east, and I think we can find, if we cannot get appropriations, we can find $200,000 to take care of our parish seat, our courthouse. That should be the very first thing we do, and offer that as a motion.
You hear that, Mr. Zahn? Any further questions?
So,
Any-
I got a question.
Mr.
Make sure
Hillingsworth?
I'm right on this now. If we can't get the grant money, then what you're saying is you're gonna come back to the council and we're gonna have to go find the money if we're gonna do phase 2.
No, I'm saying that we're going to do phase 2, and if you can get the grant money, good.
Because, if you remember, when we had this discussion last year, I was one of the people that said that elevator, for safety reasons, for security reasons, needed to be in phase 1. But you said, no, we don't need to do that in phase 1. We're gonna get that grant money, and we'll do the elevator in phase 2. And I think you said at the time it was a historical grant that had been applied for. So I don't believe historical grant money will go toward an elevator. And I said at the time, we're getting out there and we're gonna wind up, this thing is gonna balloon, and before it's over, we're gonna be winding up spending $800,000, and that's where we're headed. It started out to be a $550,000 project. Now, I agree with you, it needs to be done, but I think we need to pursue the grant, make sure we can't get the grant money, then we need to come back as a council and then decide if we're gonna do phase 2 and fund it at that time. Money is tight all over.
Mr. Hillenbeck, I'm sorry.
That's all, Mr. Hillingsworth?
That's it, thank you.
Mr. Shakespeare?
Mr. Hillenbeck, when this money was appropriated, and the people on the West Bank area started to wait for this project to be completed, it was adequate monies to finish at construction costs at that time. Since that time, costs have risen to the point that now it's going up to approximately $750,000. And the parish has not appropriated significant money for that. I think the people are tired of waiting. I think we don't need to wait for another grant or something. I think we need to get this done and get it done now. And I think this is very important, and we need to move forward and with construction. And we have requests right here that on the grant that it was in here and for security reasons, and it had never been pursued at that point, and because we were waiting for construction to commence, and that we've ended up losing it. And if we put it forward again, we should be able to get it in capital outlay, and it should be able to fund that.
That's not what I'm hearing from Mr. Young, Mr. Shake Snyder. He is our grants coordinator, and I understand he's been working on this since last October, and at no time have we instructed him not to be working on it to get these grants. I would just ask that we're going through the budget process now for next year. The $500,000 with the interest, and I think it was back when, 2001? This $500,000, when was this $500,000 first appropriated? 2000? And the interest has grown, what, about 50,000 or so since then? Okay.
Spent about 25,000.
So if we go through the budget process, ladies and gentlemen, for this next year, we can look at this. But I mean, I have no problem with what we have in there now. But you guys realize the extra expenses we're having right now with what's going on in the parish, and then those expenses we have to wait to be reimbursed by FEMA. We have no idea when that's going to happen. But I think we need to look at the budget. I ask you not to pass a motion to put something in there where you don't have the money already appropriated for it. But be happy to work with you to try to find $200-something thousand, but I don't think the elevator was in that original $500,000 either. So it wasn't just escalating costs, it's the scope of the project is being added to, and that's why when I sent each of you a letter this week asking you to tell me what was the plan, because I realized, and then I'm going to shut up and leave and go listen to the president because I got to hear this, but when I looked at the plan for the courthouse annex and realized there was no plan in that document at all for parish government, I couldn't believe it. I went back to the 2001 document, and there were no offices for parish government in the renovation at the courthouse annex. And that the specs that were given to the contractor did not include an office for the parish president, parish secretary, parish treasurer, anybody. And I couldn't believe that. And so I asked that we make sure we get a specific plan in place for this project so that we don't make the same mistakes that previous people have made on the annex that we're still dealing with when the construction began in 2001. So that's my point of view as parish president, that we really do that. Now, if you know where $200,000 is sitting, we can use it. I'm perfectly willing to consider that. But we are going to have a lot of extra expenses since August 29th that none of us now know exactly how much that's going to be. And when we're going to get reimbursed for some of those expenses. Now, it's anticipated we're going to have increased revenues next year from the new businesses in town. So we certainly can look at all that. But I would just submit to the group that we do that in the budget for 2006. We already have the 500-something thousand in this year's budget. We can begin phase one if you guys are ready to begin construction, and we can work on getting the money for phase two as we do the budget for next year. And I'm perfectly willing to look at that in that budget for next year. And we'll have that budget proposal to you at the October 13th finance meeting. So that's my only comment on that. I need to be excused, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. Mr. McConnell.
I'm not going to dwell on this because we're talking about the courthouse and not the courthouse annex. The reason that there was no provisions made for administration in the courthouse annex is because the grant money from the state, the $3 million, stipulated that it must be spent on the courthouse in the site where it now sits. There was a finite amount of space, and there was a finite amount of money, and there was just simply no place when we had to also comply with law. And in fact, help me out here, Ms. Savoy, didn't we get a little wink from the mayor? I don't say a wink, but didn't we get an accommodation from the city? I don't know that we have all of the parking. We put a parking lot across the street, and that was accepted in terms of the amount of parking. There was a finite amount of space. That's why there was no provisions for the administration. Mr. Ellensbeck and Mr. Hughes make a very good point about we're being in the budgeting process and so forth. However, we've been in the budgeting process many times while this has gone on, and no provisions have ever been made. And I think that if we want to see progress made and we want to get into this courthouse, and it is the most historic structure in this parish, and there is certainly a need for it, and I'm going to support Mr. Shake Snyder's motion that we go ahead and proceed, and then by all means we light a fire on all of our grant people's feet to see to it that they go out and try to get as much grant money as possible to help us out on this. But I think at this time we just need to go barefoot on it, and we need to proceed. And I'm going to support Mr. Shake Snyder's motion.
Thank you for that clarification on the courthouse annex, Mr. McConnell.
And also, we would be glad to allow for some office space for the parish president and parish administration. If they would want to come to the courthouse and our parish seat, we will be glad to appropriate some money to put them there and welcome them into Donaldsonville, and I think they would be well suited.
Thank you, Mr. Shakespeare. Mr. Thompson, do you have something?
I pass.
All right, there's a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Having none, is there any opposition? Having none, motion passes.
Mr. Chairman, if I can, since
Mr. Bill Root.
Yes, sir, thank you. While we're doing this, we're ready to advertise for bids on that project, and if I can get authorization to advertise for bids,
Motion.
we can proceed.
Motion to add that to the agenda, Mr. Chairman,
Mr.
under
Babbitt.
two-thirds.
Mr. Babbitt.
Can we get
Two-thirds.
that?
Second.
2/3 by Mr. Byrigger, second by Mr. McConnell, to add, going out for bids for the courthouse west. Is there any question?
Courthouse. The courthouse.
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 What I said?
No, you said courthouse.
You said courthouse west. It's the courthouse.
Courthouse, okay.
Semantics.
Is there any question? Any opposition? Having none, motion passes. We will take this up as far as proceeding with the bid.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion
Second.
to let bids out on the courthouse.
Motion by Mr. Byrigger, second by Mr. Thompson, to authorize Mr. Bill Rue to go out for bids for the courthouse. Any opposition to the motion? Having none, motion passes. Number 19,
I move to introduce the ordinance.
Second.
motion by Mr. McConnell, second by Mr. Byrigger to introduce the ordinance. Any questions on the ordinance?
Hang on, Mr. Savoy.
Mr. Valentine.
Yes, the Personnel Committee reviewed this, and there are two mistakes that I see here that I'm gonna need to check with Mr. Barriga and Ms. Fontenot and my notes to make sure. One is that, one was the encouragement of employees to use comp time within 30 days. That's what the administration wanted. It was there for a year, and we suggested that it be 6 months. We thought that 30 days was a little too short to make people try to use their comp time. And this is given where people go out on weekends and certain times get called out. Also, the other, I think, deficiency here is the out-of-state travel expenses.
Excuse me, but
Yes,
I
sir.
think we said we agree with what you wanted. In other
Right.
words, make it the same as the council.
That's correct, and it doesn't add up to that, and that's why you need
Okay.
to look at that. There was a formula we put in there.
Right.
And I think it was 10, 20, and 45
Right.
to make it 75,
Okay.
okay? And that is the two things that I see that we have discussed.
Mr. Valentine,
Yes, sir.
do you have a personnel committee meeting scheduled before the next council meeting?
I am going to schedule one, and I can review this again.
Please review that at that time.
That's no problem.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mr.
Because
McConnell.
we can still introduce it in this form,
Right.
Mr.
Correct.
Chairman, and
Yeah.
we can amend it
can amend it
as
whenever you
necessary
like.
when
That's
we go to
correct.
pass it.
All right, any further questions? Having none, motion passed.
Can I just, may I just say something?
Mr. Roy Katz.
This is just a comment. Richard Brown worked real hard on this for us, and I don't know if you were aware of it or not, but Richard was called back to the school system with this Hurricane Katrina. He's going to really be sadly missed by me personally, as well as I think the parish, but his love is with the schools and the kids, and he felt like he's at the Holy Rosary School now. He's serving as a mediator between the parents at Lamar Dixon and the kids in school. And, I really appreciate everything he's done for us and the parish. The second thing is, we keep talking about Kenny Matassa, but Kenny and David have both done a tremendous job with this distribution center. They have not one time complained or asked for anything. They were there 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. And I don't know how we can ever thank them, plus all the hundreds of volunteers we've had over there. And I know Cheryl was there quite a bit when we first started. But anyway, just thank you. That's just my ad lib.
I hope, Mr. Roy, that you can give them some time off so they can get some rest, because they need it.
Hold up.
Yeah, tell us.
Is that it? Motion by Mr. Byrigger, second by Mr. McConnell adjourned. Any opposition? Having none, motion passed. Good night, ladies and gentlemen.